Hey everybody, it's Jason McLaren with the Leadership Loading Podcast, and today we're talking about leadership and aligning your words with actions with my guest, Laurel Rutledge. And she's a coach, and she works with women and trying to help them move to their best career. I have her intro. She's a founder and CEO of the LKR Group and laurelrutledge.com. Like I said, she's a career and leadership expert and HR strategist. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and kind of how those of us that are looking to build ourselves up and move on to a career, or maybe just build ourselves up in our current career, and how we can move forward with that. So Laura, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Definitely. So we talked a little bit about your background. Can you expand just a little bit off of that?
Sure. I am a bit of a mutt, and that's what I like to tell people who are really trying to look at transition is don't think of your career as a path, think of it as a flow. So my undergrad is in accounting, and then I did operations international business. I've been an auditor, I was a consultant, and then I wound up in HR as a senior executive at HR, which really, in hindsight, was kind of full circle, but all of those things along the way gave me an ability to be a really effective senior HR person. So I've done a little bit of everything, lived in a bunch of different places, but I also believe that it's really important to understand that everything that you learn gives you transferable skills. And so as long as we believe that, and we can understand how what we know and what we experience can actually add value to something else we want to do, that's what gives us the power to make a change.
Definitely, and I think the transferable skills kind of goes into our first topic of alignment and how we can make sure that what we're doing, whether it be trying to learn or trying to maybe get that next paper or skin on the wall, as I call them, degree or whatever, making sure that's aligned with what you want to do. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Absolutely. So I developed over these many years working with people from the boardroom to the plant floor, this whole idea of alignment, vision, and action. And that alignment piece is really about who you are and where you are. And it starts with, that tree. You see the tree in my logo if you go to my website, and it starts with that grounding. Like, what are those things? What is your root system? For me, that's faith, that's family, that's friends, and that's health, and health with a big H, right? Financial, physical, mental, emotional. And so that alignment means, how do I know what grounds me? How do I know what the things are that are the skills that I bring, that bring me joy, the things that I really want to do, and how I want to show up in the world? And then where am I right now compared to where I think I want to be? So that is that first part about alignment. When you are doing something now, and this is really important, especially for those of your audience who are women, because we have a tendency to beat ourselves up a little bit more. It is understanding that if something doesn't feel right, where do you go first to understand what that is? Don't automatically say you're crazy, right? Don't automatically say it's just wrong or it's them. It's really getting clear on, what is it about this situation that doesn't align and doesn't feel right? What are those things that ground me? Is one of those not working? Or is this really outside of what I am using in terms of my skills and in terms of my desires, in terms of what brings me joy? And then I can put it in perspective. So in order for you to do anything and do it well, you really have to understand where you align, where you're grounded, where your skills lie, where your genius is, in order to then make a decision about what you want to do. And often people don't really want to take the time to do that, but I highly encourage your listeners to give yourself the gift of time to think about who you are and get really clear on where you are, so that you can determine what it is you want and what it's going to take to get there. It has to start with alignment.
Definitely. And I think when you're doing that alignment and making sure you're talking about, I call it the 2%, that only 2% will actually do something about whatever their problem is, or whether it be financial or wanting to start their business or taking that next degree or whatever they were working on. I think that you have to have that alignment on what you want to do, and make sure everyone else behind you is aligned too, like your support system, who is going to be there to have your backing. So
Exactly. And I just had this conversation this week. It's Women's History Month, and we were just talking a lot about your village. And a lot of people say your tribe, I have a corporate posse. It is really important that you surround yourself with people, one, who are going to tell you the truth, right? Who are going to really lift you up and support you, but also who can understand your vision and can help you get there with honesty, with love, and with compassion. Now, That being said, not everybody is going to be able to go with you where you go next. And so Lisa Nichols, if your folks have not listened to her, she's incredible. And one of the things she said is, don't be upset if people don't get your vision, because God didn't give it to them. He gave it to you. So when you're building that vision and building that support system, understand and be clear about the expectations you have of the people around you. If you're expecting them to always just support everything that you have, okay, know that and understand who those people are, but also be willing and strong enough and confident enough to surround yourself with people who know you well enough to challenge, not only when you're selling yourself short, but also when you may be stepping into something that really is not aligned with who you are or what you've said you wanted.
Definitely, and that kind of goes into the next topic of vision, because I think a lot of people in the corporate world, you'll see maybe they, especially like in the sectors that I've worked in, if like a VP or a senior director or somebody comes to a company, they start bringing their old people with them from their past place. But if you're not in the opportunity to do that, if you're in a position where you can't just hire a whole new staff because you want to, how can we articulate our vision to the people we're taking over and make sure that our journey is moving forward?
Man, that's such a great question, because let me tell you something. Having hired lots of veterans, and there's a couple of things I want to make sure as we're talking about this clarity of vision, and even going on to turning back to the transfer of skills. It is important for you to, one, be confident that you have them. Two, it is important to not buy into that old adage that it's going to be really hard for someone to go into civilian duty. That's about them. That's not about you. And three, understand that every person that's in HR that is doing some kind of recruiting, for the most part, unless you're doing an executive search or something, they are under so much pressure to just get a butt in the seat. Their ability to translate your skill into something that they understand is either not going to happen or not going to be really accurate. So you're going to have to be prepared and not be offended to translate for them. They're just not going to do it. Sometimes they have too much pressure to do it. So in order for you to do that, you've got to get really clear on what you want. And being clear on what you want means starting with a list. This is what I take my clients through all the time. I want you to just start a list, not what job I want. What is the work that I want to do? What is the work that I want to do? And the reason I say that is because if you say, for simplicity's sake, I really love accounting, I want to be closing the books and doing financial statements and all of that kind of stuff. You can do that in nonprofit. You can do that in any industry. You can do that as your own business. You can do that in a lot of places, globally, domestically, small, big. But if you said, I want to be a CPA in a firm, you have just cut down on so much opportunity that may be somewhere that you would be exceptional with lots of growth and lots of excitement. So start with, when you're looking at clarifying that vision, start with, what is the work that I want to do? Then you can start talking about, where can I find it? What industries can it be in? Who do I need to surround myself with to build the skills that I might not have in order to do that work? So aligning yourself, knowing what it is and who you are and where you are, and then getting really clear on that vision. And then once you're clear, it's about communicating effectively with others. Starting from the standpoint of, I need to say what I mean. People are not going to be able to read your mind. And in the absence of information, people will make it up. And so especially for those who are coming out of an organization that was very command and control, very, look, here's just what I said, you just got to do it. If you're taking over a new team and you're in a new organization, one, they needed to get to know who you are, but two, they need to not only understand where you want them to go, but they need to understand why. So allowing yourself to give some space and grace to those who are getting to know you, to get really clear on not only where you're trying to take them, but about why you're trying to take them there and how they fit into the overall vision. Because leadership is not about position. Leadership is about behavior. And so if you really want to be clear and clarify your vision, not only for yourself, but for everyone else, you've got to be willing to communicate and meet people where they are, which is sometimes going to be confusion, sometimes going to be their own agenda. It's about listening actively and really communicating full circle around what you believe is the next step and why, right? And what the ultimate goal is going to be for them and how they fit into that overall plan. And I, quite frankly, think some of the best leaders that I have worked with have been folks who have come from a military background who are exceptional strategists. The challenge sometimes is that patience with having people ask why a lot, right? It's a lot of why. I don't understand. Why are we doing this? We've never done it that way, or we've always done it this way. Give yourself some grace, have a little bit more patience, and know that just because you understand it, you got to assume that the people that working for you do not. And start elementary, and they'll tell you, give them grace. If I'm going into too much explanation, just tell me you're not going to hurt my feelings. We can start at a different level, but give them that opportunity to understand. That's how you set a clear vision for people.
Yeah, that's one of the first meetings I have when I take over a new position is telling the people like, look, you guys are experts here. You're here every day and you do the job every day. Because usually I'm in a leadership position where I'm there to make sure that I'm filtering out all the stuff that's coming down and that they're able to do their job throughout the day. And so I always say, you're doing this every day. Yeah, I used to do this or I know about this, which is why I'm in the leadership position. But things change, technologies change, procedures change. And if you're doing something different here, let me know and we'll talk about it. So and kind of rewinding back to more to the vision side. So I always tell my story of when I got out of the military and I was a firefighter in the Air Force. And that's what I wanted to do when I got out, because that was my only vision. And like we were talking about earlier, alignment, I didn't know anything else. That's what I did. And that's what I trained my whole life for. When I get out, I had 20 days from the time I found out I was getting out and I was walking off the base. So not a lot of time to transition or figure out what I wanted to do. And so, like you said earlier, I used my skills after I've determined I couldn't be a firefighter anymore. And I was running in circles trying to get on fire departments. But I said, well, what? I can use these skills for other things. I can lateral over. So I became basically a corporate fire inspector and did corporate fire inspection stuff, which then lateraled me over into the engineering side and facility side because I worked with them a lot. So, using those skills, not straight in a straight path to what they're exactly designed for, and then kind of tweaking them to different skill sets was able to let me lateral up and move forward. So,
and what you said is important too, though, is that sometimes we sell ourselves short, right? We just think about, well, I've been a firefighter, I've been in the military. You've been so much more than that. Don't sell yourself short, right? Think circularly about everything that you have done and all the skills that you've had, right?
That's how I got my first job out of the Air Force. I was doing handyman work basically and consulting, doing fire consulting stuff. And I had worked in the 911 center a few months in the military. So that's what I did just to bridge the gap. I worked in a 911 center, even though that's not, kind of firefighter related, but it wasn't my dream job at all. So now let's talk about action. I think a lot of people, like we talked about, I talked about the 2% are the ones that take action and to progress forward. Even in my career and people I've managed, if I had a staff of 10, only 2 of them are actually going to move forward and keep, that I have the 2 that come to my office every day and say, what can I do to get that next promotion? Or what can I do to get a certification? And I'm constantly coaching them up. Well, then my other 8 people, they either are just unengaged or they just want to show up every day and do what they're hired for, and they don't want to move forward anymore. So how can we, take action to get what we want to get and move forward if that's something we want to do?
Absolutely. The old saying is a goal without a plan is just a wish. And I grew up with, parents who told us the 6 P's: proper prior planning prevents poor performance. And so that's why I have this alignment, vision, action. If you're aligned, you know who you are and where you are. And then you get a really clear vision on what it is that you want. Then you can start putting a plan of action in place. And that plan of action in place might include, with my work circumstances now, with my life circumstances, with whatever's going on in my life at the moment, I need to sit still right here, but I can make a plan for my next move. Because unless you are in danger, unless you are really in a situation that's really bad, I don't want anyone to hurt themselves because they're mad at their company, right? Or they're mad at their boss. Don't hurt you because you're mad at them. Make a plan, take the time to make a plan, because you've been there this long. A few more days, a few more months is not going to make that big a deal unless you're really in a bad situation. So when you start to make a plan, the first thing is, okay, I've got my vision. Now, what is it going to take for me to make that vision happen? Who do I need? I'm going to start making calls. I'm going to start building my mentor network. You need mentors, you need sponsors, and those are two different things. A mentor is someone who is not your best friend. They're going to tell you the truth, right? They're going to see some things and say, oh, you might want to think about this. And it's a relationship. A sponsor is someone you may not even know. You may not even know, but they know you. They've seen your work. They're the people who bring up your name in rooms where you're not even present. They're the ones that help you build opportunities. And so when you start to make this plan, the first piece of your plan is, who do I need in order to make this happen? Because I've gotten clear on my vision. The second piece of your plan is putting in place specific actions you're going to take. I am going to make a certain number of calls, every week. I'm going to go have coffee with people. I'm going to build this particular network. I'm going to actually do something to make it happen. Then the third piece of that, when you get a plan, is making sure that you have a postmortem, right? You always want to go back and say, here's what I said I wanted. Here's what I did. Here's what the outcome was. Was that what I really wanted, or was it not? And what do I need to tweak? Because again, I encourage you to look at this as a career flow, not a career path. And if you've made your plan, then you can understand when something happens that's simply a detour as opposed to a derailer. And there is a difference, because sometimes there will be someone who comes into your life. There will be an opportunity that comes up where it feels like you just need to say yes. You're not quite sure that it's exactly on the path. It feels kind of adjacent, but you can see some learning or some connections or some skill that you're going to get out of that detour that is ultimately going to get you where you want to be. So if you're aligned, if you're really clear on your vision, when you start making that plan allows flexibility for movement. So if you're really wanting to move into action, the first thing you have to do is do it. The second thing you have to do is start figuring out who you need to help you. And the third is, once I start taking action, I need to always do a postmortem and evaluate, because things change over time. So give yourself the opportunity to not be perfect. It's not going to be perfect, because people are people and times change and our lives change. So build that flexibility into your plan so that as you're doing your postmortems, you can say, you know what? I was going to apply for that thing. I was going to get that promotion, but that didn't make a whole lot of sense. Or, you know what? This thing came up and it made me move to Cincinnati, which happened to me. And I wasn't quite sure and I didn't want to be in the snow, but I moved and look what happened, right? So that piece of action really requires flexibility and clarity.
And I think a lot of that comes from your little breakout of your last name on your website, out of the rut and off the ledge.
Yes.
So I think that's great. Getting out of the rut, and that kind of talked about everything we've talked about so far. But, just taking the step and getting out there, and then I believe your coaching session is off the ledge and
yes,
and moving forward and going from there. Like I said, same thing. I've taken jobs that are, 500 miles away just because I'm like, I got to take this opportunity and move. And, and I was listening to Graham Stefan this morning on a podcast, and the guest was talking about, he was talking about with the Great Recession, and now we're going through about to go through another, not recession, sorry, Great Resignation. But we're about to go through another one because all these companies are like, you're coming back to work 5 days a week, and these people are like, no, I'm not. But anyway, where I was going with that is that these people are like, I'm just take my own chances and make my own business or do whatever I have to do to move forward. So definitely.
Yeah.
So with that, if I had 1 minute to catch you in the hallway and you had to give me one leadership tip before I went into my next meeting, what would you say?
The thing that I would say, which is kind of the thing you started with, is be sure that your words and your actions align, because people will listen to what you say, but they will believe what you do. And in order for you to truly lead, your actions have to align with what you tell people.
Definitely. All right. So how can we find you if we want to get a hold of you?
The easiest way to find me is the website, laurelrutledge.com. You can get to the podcast on there. You can get to the radio show on there. That's every Tuesday. A new podcast episode actually dropped this Wednesday. I now have a show on Fireside, and I would love for people to join me on Fireside because that's open. You can join and jump on the stage. It's like Clubhouse on steroids, right? You can get on video and join the conversation. And to do that, it's just firesidechat.com/Laurel Rutledge, and you can get access to Fireside. But the easiest way to get to me is just go to laurelrutledge.com, and everything is there. Just send a little note to me. I'm on all social media at either the Rutledge Perspective or Laurel K. Rutledge. You can find me, send me a DM. I would love to reach out. I love supporting veterans. And I really am adamant about the fact that we've got to change that narrative, that transition from being in the military to civilian is too difficult. And it's really hard for those to lead. And that's just not true. And so anything I can do to help change that narrative, anything I can do to support, then I want to be able to do that. So reach out to me. And even if I'm not your person, I know a lot of people, so I can probably connect you with somebody.
That's what I say in my career. It's all about knowing a person. So
yes,
definitely.
Yes.
I'll put the links in the show notes, and she has a
Awesome.
30-minute chat button on her front page there.
Yeah.
You can click on there and connect with her and go from there.
I'd love it. I'd love it.
Laurel, thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
There are thousands of leadership and management podcasts to choose from. We're glad you chose the Leadership Loading Podcast, a Go Heroes production. If you'd like to support Go Heroes Inc., visit www.goheroes.org. And with that, it's time to wrap up today's show. Thank you so much for listening. We sincerely hope you liked it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this podcast with your family and friends. Let's all grow together. Thanks for listening to the Leadership Loading Podcast. Leadership inspired.